Hey Bat fans, Luke here, back ready to bat chat about another bat trade, and today we're going to take a look at a trade that I recently put up a poll on Twitter. Said I think I had four choices, which bat book would you want to talk about next, and I had, let's see, Tales of the Demon, I had Batman Black and White Volume 1, I had Batman Ghosts, and I can't remember what the fourth selection was. Either way, it turned out it was a tie between Batman Ghosts and Tales of the Demon. So I kind of did the two-face, flipped the coin to see which one was going to do to kind of serve as the tiebreaker. So I did go ahead and prep to do Batman Ghost. I will do Tales of the Demon. I think probably over the next couple days. I just got my books on Saturday for this week. Didn't get a chance to read them yet because I had just family stuff. So I'm going to read this week's books, and then I'm actually going to prep for the last volume of Legends of the Dark Knight, the fifth and final one, video review I'm going to do for that series. And then I will do Tales of the Demon because I do got some time off from work, so I will definitely sneak that in here pretty soon, in addition to some other ones. So anyway, Batman Ghost. I would say this was a interesting read. Within this trade, it collects stories from Batman Confidential issues 40 through 43. It also has Batman Lobo Deadly Serious issues 1 and 2. So you actually get two stories in this, encompassing a total of 5 issues. And both stories are both written and drawn by Sam Keith. Sam Keith, in addition to this work, I think he also did the story Through the Looking Glass, which dealt with Mad Hatter story, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think he did that one as well. And his art style, very much like you see in the cover, if I had to really explain it, it's kind of really like a painting style. You don't get really stuck in the details with his art, but I think it's kind of a blend. If I kind of had to really say anything with this style, it's kind of a blend between Ben Templesmith. Templesmith, if you know him, he does really have this type of art style. I'm familiar with it. If you're unfamiliar with his work, he most recently did within DC anyway. Well, actually, before the most recent works, he did a Wormwood over in IDW, kind of a mini-series. I think it was only like 2 or 3, plus a winter special, so maybe 4 issues. Little mini-series, but also did, for DC, he did Gotham by Midnight, the first half of that series before he transferred over to Juan Ferrer on art. But before that, I think he's critically acclaimed, known for his work in IDW with 30 Days a Night, the horror vampire story set in the thematic Alaska setting where basically it's 30 days of no days and it's just vampires running amok. Anyway, going on a tangent, but it's kind of a cross between Templesmith and I think a Kelly Jones. Kelly Jones, what he does, you should know him from the Nightfall circa Batman stories. Additionally, he did the last arc of Swamp Thing before Len Wein kind of passed away. I think he also did the Swamp Thing little no dialogue story in the Wonder Special we had, Swamp Thing with Tom King, Jason Fabok. But you kind of see a blending of the two in Sam Keith's art style. And I will say it's an art style I think that fits this story very well, but one that I don't think would work in anything else. To be perfectly honest, I can't see this, in I don't even know what do you like in a Batman Bloom story, or even the one we have Alex Maleev doing the Sandman, which almost has a very similar style in the pages of the Dark Knight. I just don't think it would sit well. It has to be a very niche type of story, which this one fit very well. So, it's great to look at, but again, it has to have the right style, the right writing story, the right story concept for it to really kind of sink in. Because if not, it would really feel kind of out of place and I could see where people kind of get annoyed with it. But it's really great art, and for the most part, I'm just going to talk about ghosts. I'm not going to really hit too much. I might put some minor thoughts at the very end about the Lobo story, but predominantly in this video, it's going to focus on ghosts. And the ghost story I thought was really interesting. The basic premise behind this story is that there's a ghost that's going around and killing a bunch of homeless individuals. And what basically ends up happening is that Batman forms this kind of a partnership with this individual who works very closely with the homeless in the city. Kind of like Leslie Tompkins in a way, but this person who kind of runs like a shelter knows Commissioner Gordon very well. Which also, where to put this thing in the timeline, I have no idea. I don't know if this would be considered an Elseworlds tale. It sort of would be, but where to put this in a timeline of continuity, who the heck knows? If anything, I would maybe put this after Night Cries, because I would assume that this is, if anything, you got the tale of the hint of, Commissioner Gordon being commissioner. So outside of that, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But anyway, this person has a very good kinship with Commissioner Gordon. Commissioner Gordon kind of gets Batman and this lady to kind of hook up. And the problem with this individual is that she's blind, but she had a upbringing very much similar to Bruce, in that her mother was actually killed, and she was kind of left orphaned. So she's kind of how she kind of came up with herself and her upbringing, and that's where she kind of finds a way to kind of honor her mother in a way, she'll do some good and work with the homeless. But basically, again, what's happening is that all these homeless individuals are being killed, and what's being left behind is this yellow dust, which Batman kind of, and even the blind lady has a heightened sense of smell. They deducted it's like sulfur. And it's sulfur, not in then sulfur is like a compound, like a chemical compound. It's basically what they're feeling it is that it's gun residue, and it got that smell of someone being shot. So all these homeless people who are actually getting tore up, and they don't really show the violence in this as much. They do somewhat, but these homeless people, they're shot, and then their bodies are like mangled up, almost look like they're eaten. And then Batman mentions at one point that it's not like a clean cut with a knife. This is like a bite, and so, but the only clue that Batman has to run with right now is that at the end of all these crime scenes he's coming up against is there's this powder of like yellow dirt, and it has a really big smell of sulfur behind it, which kind of goes into the underlying theme in this story, that it goes back to the guns. This is Batman hunting down a story that ultimately comes down to his viewpoints on guns, and which kind of leads to the only thing that kind of made me not really cringe, but just as a Bat fan, we know Bruce's stance on guns very vehemently, and the one thing that he says, the only thing that really stood out to me that didn't kind of make sense is that he mentioned something. I should have bookmarked this, but it comes across a crime scene. I think it's one of the earliest ones. And even Gordon mentions the fact, that, it's dealing with guns, and he's like, he says something to the effect of, what's bothering you? Is it the guns? He's like, I really don't have a viewpoint pro or against guns. It's just the fact that someone's using it. And that's really kind of giving it like the Cliff Notes version of it. I wish I could find it. But as one is like, I heard that, and I was just like, it just doesn't make sense, because Batman's point of view that he would be very against guns, and just the one dialogue he said in the story that, again, it didn't hold true to, I think, what the character of Batman would be. And I really wish I could find it. But either way, it goes on something like that. But you end up seeing that this creature, that Batman actually has encounters with this ghost that he ends up coming to see, and you don't know for sure if it's an actual ghost or it's him having visions, hallucinations, whatnot. But you actually see a form of the ghost, But again, you don't know if it's like it's kind of coming in here. Batman actually has a dialogue with this ghost, and there's like the yellow vapor. In that, it's kind of hard to tell, but it kind of foreshadows events. It kind of goes into this tie with this blind individual that Batman has a working relationship with, which you kind of almost get the sense that this person becomes very attracted with Batman, but Batman kind of puts that stoic wall of, that I can't be close to anybody, which actually comes back to the very end of it in that it foreshadows an event which I don't want to spoil, which comes kind of true, which kind of goes into the biggest fallacy of this book, I think, is just how the foreshadowed event actually occurred. But ultimately we find out that the ghost that is kind of referenced throughout, it does kind of play into something that could also be kind of linked to, again, it just really can't tell for sure if this was a vision, if it's something Batman just hallucinating, or there's actually a ghost. But there's a person that actually, it kind of leads into why all these homeless people were getting murdered in the first place. And it does come up with someone who's kind of crooked in a way. Again, I don't want to spoil it, but you do see a twist at the end, how all the murders are come up, you find out why it actually happened. But again, the biggest fallacy is the foreshadowed event. I'll just be blunt without kind of spoiling. It deals with the blind person, and the way it kind of came to fruition, which was, I thought, just, I'll be honest, I thought it was incredibly lazy and silly at the same time. It was just like, I saw it kind of pan out, and I was just like, really, that's how they're going to end the story. So overall, the story in this, I thought was very good. The art, again, matched the story. It's one that, it's not an epic one, but again, it really comes down to just a really good, it's a detective story if you like that. It's Batman hunting down the case. And it kind of has an underlying theme with, guns, and how it actually molded, the future and the being of two individuals, Batman and this blind lady. And it really was a good, solid story. One that kind of left things open for interpretation, but the thing that kind of crushed it is the ending. The Lobo story, I thought was significantly worse. Just to give you the quick premise, because I'm not going to go in depth with this at all. Basically happens is that Batman is kind of transported to outer space, and so is Lobo, and they come together, work together. And the reason they're transported in outer space is that there is this alien entity that's basically acting like a virus and only going to females, who then later go kind of like bloodthirsty and just go on a killing spree. And it's kind of like Aliens met Outbreak. I don't know. It's, to be honest, it's kind of silly. The art in it's pretty good. Again, it's one that it fits the story, but it's basically Batman and Lobo hunting down this entity that's, jumping from host to host. It's almost like Jason X. That might even be a better explanation. Think Alien/Jason X. Not even Jason. Better yet, Alien, Jason X, Jason Goes to Hell. All three of those movies, bam, in this Batman Lobo story. And it's just them hunting down everything. And there's a plot twist toward the end that Lobo, again, originally comes down to it's this alien virus only goes to females, mainly because of the estrogen amount, and typically that's why it doesn't go to males, because they have some estrogen in the system, but not nearly as much as females. But Lobo has a heightened amount of estrogen, it turns out. And either way, it's just them hopping around. The biggest thing I would kind of say to this is that even though it tries to be kind of like a detective type of story, Batman could be really inserted by anyone else. It doesn't necessarily need to be a Batman story. It's kind of a bummer. The art, again, it has its moments. The art's nice. Sam Keith used a lot of good 2-page splashes in this and splash images. There's even one where you kind of had to like twist the book around to kind of see the full paneling of it. I think it's coming up. It deals with the last female host that gets taken in before she makes her way to Earth, and that's, plot twist, whatever. Well, not plot twist, but that's basically the gist of the story. Yeah, so I mean, if you look at it this way, it's nice to look at, but the art is kind of yeah. So overall, Batman Ghost is one of those ones. The Ghost again. To be honest, I gotta mention the Lobo story only because it's encompassed in here, but just focusing strictly on Ghost. Ghost is the fun story, but I mean, look at this was a $20 book. Is it worth picking up? I would say only to the Batman completionists out there. Again, I don't even know if this would even be considered in continuity. This is kind of flirting on the Elseworld trail. So, I mean, Batman completionists definitely pick this up. Everyone else, only if you're just looking for something else to read and you have nothing else really to do. Because at the end of the day, it's a fun read, but I don't know if it has much of an impact on the Bat chronology, history, whatnot. Fun to look at for $20. Yeah, 5 issues. What really kills it again is the ending on how the foreshadowed event actually occurs. And additionally, the Lobo story, it doesn't even have to be a Batman. It's one of those ones that really felt like they just threw Batman on the title just to sell a couple issues. So yeah. That said, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5, but this is coming from perspective of as a Batman completionist. The average comic book reader out there probably won't enjoy this nearly as much. Probably put this like a 2 out of 5. It would have been more just in the Lobo part and the way it ended, but I did enjoy the art, especially just Ghosts. The art was good and the story, it felt together pretty nice. So from my perspective, 3 out of 5, but anyone else I can see it probably going down to 2, maybe 1.5 out of 5. So as far as recommendation, your call, but kind of gave my 2 cents on it. So anyway, that's Batman Ghost. Hit me up in the comments below what you thought of this story. If you read it, we'll bat chat and go from there. Again, next video will more than likely be Legends of the Dark Knight Volume 5. Shortly followed after that at some point, if I don't get my books in for next week, which will probably be Tales of the Demon. So anyway, until next video, take care.